We present the core program, implemented in the 4 districts of Belarus: Bragin, Slavgorod, Stolin and Chechyrsk. This film is about the core program in Belarus, which, owing to an innovative approach and cooperation with international partners, contributes to the rehabilitation of living conditions of people in their Chernobyl-affected territories. 26th of April, 1986 became a hard lesson for the mankind. The accident at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, the biggest man-made disaster which has ever happened in the entire history of the planet. The village of Ryabinovka, Slavgorod district, ceased to exist after the accident. There are many dozens of such villages in the contaminated areas. Sometimes people were relocated not farther than just across the road. Here is the border that divided the village of Krasnoye, Bragin district, into 2 parts, one alive and one dead. The village lies on this side, and the abandoned area is on the opposite side. Currently, about 1.5 million Belarusians reside in the contaminated areas of Belarus. How can we help these people? Humanitarian aid and recuperation trip abroad are clearly not the only way to do it. An enabling environment is needed for sustainable development of all spheres and economy in particular. The government takes necessary measures, but the problem is too complicated for one country. It can be resolved only through a concerted effort of all who are concerned about the fate of the affected districts. Together means we can do it. This is the motto of the CORE program, which was launched in 2003. CORE is a new generation program of cooperation for sustainable rehabilitation of living conditions of people living in their Chernobyl-affected areas of Belarus. The government supports the CORE program. It participates in its work because the population living in affected territories needs this program immensely. The CORE program was co-initiated by many organizations, including international.
It is very important to focus on the future and help people to have this positive, productive, dynamic outlook and support them with resources, knowledge, information.
The CORE program consists of long-term topical and short-term small-scale projects initiated by the residents of the Bragin, Stolin, Slavgorod and Chechyrsk districts. Resources for implementation of these projects are allocated by local, national and international partners.
It's very, very innovative. It's a new model. It allows the possibility of local people in the affected regions, Bragin, Slavgorod, working with the organizations from all over Europe.
Local people decide for themselves what projects they really need. Several times a year, they gather at the Preparation and Assessment Committee meetings to select the worthy project initiative. The projects approved by the Preparation and Assessment Committee are then reviewed by representatives of diplomatic missions, governmental ministries and agencies, international organizations. They constitute the approval board. It approves the projects for their subsequent implementation. French people realize how difficult it is to manage the long-term radioactive contamination. By participating in the CORE program, we jointly try to find a way out of this complicated situation. It took just 1.5 years to initiate and approve 78 small-scale and 27 topical projects with total budget of €8 million.
The British Embassy is one of the signatories of the CORE programme. We're one of the signatories because we think the rehabilitation of the area affected by Chernobyl is important.
All the approved projects satisfy the criteria of the Declaration of Principles of the CORE program, the main document of the program, which specifies its 4 priority areas: economic and social development in the rural economic areas, healthcare and surveillance, culture and education of children and youth, transition of the memory of the Chernobyl disaster, radiological quality. The CORE Agri project contributes to the development of private land plots. The rural population learns what crops can be most effectively grown on the contaminated lands, what varieties accumulate less radiation, and what fertilizers should be used. As a result, they cultivate cleaner agricultural produce. The project is implemented in the Stolin and Slavgrad districts. Local people are assisted in application of advanced agricultural technologies. Within the framework of the Core Agri project, the Stolin District Center for Support of Rural Development and Entrepreneurship was established with the financial support from UNOCHA. Study visits to exhibitions and leading farms of Belarus, Poland and France were organized for local farmers. Microcredit schemes are being developed. Rural residents can quickly and easily obtain a credit to buy a cow, seeds, fertilizers. Farmers learn how to competently use the credits and manage the microcrediting mechanism. We took this loan. Certainly, we wish it were not just for 6 months, but for a longer period. Otherwise, our people are very much satisfied with this program. The project participants succeeded in their efforts. Rural people took in a good harvest, and their families received additional income. The radionuclide content in the produce was well below the existing norms. We had a very good yield of potatoes, onions, beetroots, and other vegetables. In agriculture, marketing is a real challenge. Today, this is one of the priorities for the Core Agri project. There are also activities aimed to improve pastures and the quality of fodder in order to enhance cattle breeding in the affected districts. In the future, similar activities will be implemented on the contaminated territories of the Bragan and Chechevsk districts.
This is the question of empowerment from people, that people discover themselves that they can do something with the help from outside, with a certain solidarity.
The Core Agri project is being implemented in cooperation with many foreign and national agencies, with immediate involvement of local authorities. Forest mushrooms accumulate the most of the radiation. It is prohibited to pick mushrooms in the contaminated forests. Yet, there is a village in the affected territories where clean mushrooms grow. It is the village of Nisymkovichi, Chechers district, where an experimental project of mushroom cultivation is underway. If one can't pick and eat mushrooms, then why not cultivate them? No sooner said than done. Teachers and students of the Nisymkovichi school harvest the first yield of non-contaminated mushrooms. I'm happy that our project is underway with what we are doing. Firstly, the children see how to grow clean food. Then, maybe somebody will apply the technique and grow the mushrooms at home, and they won't need to go to the forest to gather contaminated mushrooms. The Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation supports the experimental project of cultivation and selling of Veshenka mushrooms. It is with great pleasure that Switzerland cooperates with the Core program, because this program gives the population, those people who live in the affected territories, the voice and the opportunity to come up with their ideas on how they want to develop their life. The inhabitants of the village of Merkulovichi, Chechers district, with the support from the OSC office in Minsk, managed to revive the school orchard. They invested the project resources into the pest control and protective needs. This is what the orchard looked like before, and look at it now. The children named it The Dream. And the younger children help us a lot, of course. They are probably the future of this orchard, and the orchard is in turn their future. I am very glad. I know that people may be proud of the fact that they work. In the Developmental Training and Rehabilitation Center in Chechevsk, children with mental and physical disabilities look after the flowers and grow vegetables. The work at the flower beds and in the greenhouse gives them hope to become full and equal members of the society. These flowers were painted by the children, and these flowers were grown by them. The Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation is the major partner of the project. I want people to see our children, because our children are eager to live a full life. They want to be involved in the life of our society and in the life of our country. The people living in the Chernobyl-affected areas are exposed to higher radiation levels in some cases. This reflects on their health. Now it is important to learn how to coexist with the radiation and be responsible not only for one's own health, but also for the health of one's relatives. A rehabilitation center, the Window of Hope, was created in the kindergarten of Verkhny Terebezhov village, Stolin district, with the assistance of the OSC office in Minsk. Now the kids can have recuperative exercises and treatment procedures every day. The preschool children enjoy the exercises in the rehabilitation center, and what is more important, they benefit from them. The illness rate is going down, and this is the most important thing. Additionally, children together with their parents study the basic radiation safety skills at the Window of Hope Center. At the practical radiological culture workshops in the Stalin district, pregnant women and young mothers learn how to maintain a proper diet, how to prepare for the birth of a child, how to take care of the newborns, and what actions should be taken to protect an infant from hazardous radiation exposure. The core program introduced a valuable element into the radio-ecological education of the population in the sense that it targets the people who care about their health and the health of their children. Pregnant women and young mothers receive recommendations from physicians and radiologists. The recommendations were developed specifically for the Health and Maternity Project, which is supported by the Chernobyl Committee and UNFPA. We do hope that all the documents developed within the framework of this project will also help people in other districts, not only those covered by the core program, to live safely. Healthy children, this is the main outcome of the project. The initiative-driven people living in Slavgorod reconstruct the images of the villages struck down by the Chernobyl catastrophe. They collect the materials related to the consequences of the Chernobyl in order to keep the memory of what was lost for future generations. The staff of the Slavgorod Children's Art Center collect the material about the Chernobyl disaster. Now their archives contain newspaper clippings, photos and stories of local residents. It is the core program which, within the framework of such projects, helps the people to forget this tragedy. Participants of the project plan to organize an exhibition in commemoration of the Chernobyl catastrophe. The Gorodnaya village of the Stalin district has always been famous for its potters. Now the local school children are trained in the ways of this craft. Once implemented, the project in Gorodnaya will help move the center into more spacious premises and organize sales of pottery. When you visit us in a year from now, you won't recognize us. Forewarned means forearmed. It is very important to know what comes into one's body with food, because this knowledge helps preserve one's health. Local radiation control centers are established in villages and communities located in the contaminated areas. They provide local people with the information on radionuclide content in food and environment. These measurements help the communities ensure their safety. The topical project implementation of an inclusive radiation monitoring system in the Bragan district is supported by the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, and also by French partners, the Association for Controlling Radiation in the West of France and the Nuclear Protection Evaluation Center. The content of cesium-137 in foodstuffs is measured at local radiation control centers. In order to take specific precautionary measures when a high cesium content is detected. This is a good initiative in terms of providing a real support to the citizens who find themselves in rather difficult situations and who live in the contaminated areas. French and Belarusian children study the basics of radiation safety. They make the maps of radioactive contamination and conduct public surveys on radiation issues. Then they share the experience during exchange visits. The children from both Belarus and France have learned an important lesson. Any disaster can be overcome by a joint effort. It is here, the village of Almany, one of the first core projects is being implemented with the assistance of the Nuclear Protection Evaluation Center of France, French Institute of Radio Protection and Nuclear Safety, and the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Local people, primarily children, in principle developed themselves a method of calculating the radionuclide accumulation in a human body, conducted a sociological survey, worked with the ash, and now they can use this knowledge in practice. One of the project components was the visit of Almanev children to France, followed by the visit of Bois d'Amour Lycée students to Belarus. The French children admired the country that they heard so much about, and whose concerns they started to relate themselves to. What actually pleasantly surprises me is the increasing level of commitment of the local population, which already testifies to a certain success achieved by the program. Now the local people see changes for the better. The people start showing more initiative. They are ready to create their future, and when they have so many assistants, they are even more willing to go ahead. In 2003, the Declaration of Principles of the Core Program was signed by 11 participants. This was the beginning of a significant joint endeavor. The core program helps the concerned people to jointly look for a solution of the problem and subsequently implement it. A year later, another 18 signatures were affixed to the basic document of the program. On 23rd of November 2005, the Preparation and Assessment Committee in Chechyrsk welcomed the 30th signatory of the Declaration of Principles of the Core